both former #1 overall picks. Who are you more confident in getting to a Super Bowl?
That's a very difficult question because the team aspect, I like the Lions. The conference, it's an easier conference overall than the AFC. So you're thinking I'm leaning Lions, but then I like Joe Burrow, man. I like Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I take the better quarterback of the two. Joe has proven it. Obviously, Goff has proven it as well. The new offensive coordinator situation in Detroit gives me a little bit of pause. I like the momentum that the Bengals are building offensively. I think they can be a top passing attack in the league for years to come. And I think they will be that way. I think they can throw for a lot of yards. Chase Brown came on as of late. My only issue, and this is a little bit a reason of pause, is that defense. Obviously, like we understand that. They had 8 losses last year. They gave up 34 points a game. They scored 28 points in those 34. You should win those football games. So when you're going strictly between Goff and Burrow, I'm going to rely on the guy who has done it. I know Goff has done it, but I like the better quarterback, Joe Burrow here.
Yeah, for me, it's easy. It's easy. It's got to be Joe Burrow because, and the Lions, it's got to be Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Yeah, Joe Burrow's just a lot better. He's just a lot better. At the end of the day, he's a lot better. I think the Lions have too many moving pieces. I think the Lions have a new OC. They have a new DC. You got to figure out how are players going to return from the injury. Like Aiden Hutchinson, he a dog. How are we going to come back from the injury? But Jared Goff is not a game changer.
Why is it super easy and why is it why is
it wasn't
Joe
easy for me.
Why is Joe way better than Goff?
Joe Burrow has it, and Goff just he ain't got it. And to me is if a play needs to be made, Joe Burrow will make the play. If a game needs to be won, more often than not, because obviously Joe Burrow missed the playoffs last year. If a game needs to be won in the midst of that game, I trust Joe Burrow to win it. But if a play needs to be made, Burrow gonna make the play more often than Goff is.
Bro, so let me go next. Wait. You don't think Joe Burrow's way better than Jared Goff?
I was about to switch the whole conversation up on my dog because I was about to ask him who would you want, Joe Burrow or Purdy? Because you can't really do better than 4 wins. You know, I was look. Go ahead. I was gonna get it.
But guess what? I'm going with the Lions. I'm going with Jared Goff.
I can see that.
You know why? First of all, better team. And as great as Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is, and you add little T. Higgins, Lions got a better offense.
Running backs.
Yeah.
Okay.
RB.
Right? So when if Jared Goff is not on his game, let me throw this ball to the running backs. Right, Jameer Gibbs. Where you at, Jameer Gibbs? Montgomery, are you here? Better offensive line. If you haven't learned anything from the Philadelphia Eagles, learn one thing from us. Start in the trenches, right? You go to the trenches, that's where we live at. You look at the Lions. They have the second, third best, or top 3 offensive line in football. Tight end is a dog. And then let's go to the defense. The defense was not good last year. But one thing the defense did, they got turnovers, checked, and a lot of guys were injured. You get a lot of them guys back on defense. So better roster, better offense. I'm going with the Lions.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, that conversation took some turns. I just made a video, depending on what order this gets posted in, but I just made a video literally right before this video about Jaden Daniels. The question was about Jaden Daniels and too much pressure on Jaden Daniels, and I was kind of like, dude, the pressure's not on Jaden Daniels, it's on the Commanders franchise, right? Like, it's up to the Commanders franchise to be able to put a team around him that he can win. And that's the same thing with this question, right? Trust Jared Goff or Joe Burrow to return to Super Bowl. Both those quarterbacks have shown their ability to lead a team and play great, but only one franchise so far has kind of been shown that they can actually make great moves and build great teams. And that's been the Detroit Lions. And you would never think that's what you would say about the Detroit Lions. I think right now the Detroit Lions are just light years better run than the Bengals. I mean, let's be serious here. So even if you think Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Jared Goff, and yes, sorry, Detroit Lions fans, the answer is yes. Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Jared Goff, and that in no way should be controversial. That's why I don't even know why James Jones was even like, I don't even understand what he was trying to bait at that point. It doesn't Doesn't make any sense to me. But it's the Lions team that you're gonna have more trust in as a whole. Do I think that the Bengals could surprise some people this coming season? I do. I think the big question mark is going to be what do they do in the draft, as well as their new defensive coordinator, can he actually finally give that defense an identity, something that you can actually rely on, something that is actually, somewhat feared and respectable. You do that when that changes everything. And I do think that there's going to be question marks around the coordinators for the Lions. I think that's all fair game. But if you just kind of take a step back and say, which franchise do I trust are going to build better teams over the next 5 years, or what team is going to be able to pivot if they need to, make a really aggressive move if they need to, smart GMing, so to speak, it's going to be the Lions. And I don't even have to think about it. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. The only other thing that I think that the Bengals could have going for them over, say, the Detroit Lions is that if both teams are really close and now you're trying to acquire free agents, I think potentially like Joe Burrow would have the chance to potentially, get a free agent. Like let's use an example. Let's say both teams, and obviously I know neither of these teams need the player like this, but like I think this is kind of a fair example, like a Saquon Barkley or even like a Devontae Adams, and it's kind of like, I can choose between the Lions or the Bengals. I think if it's really kind of this 50-50 feeling, I think like you would maybe, again, if they're both close, if they're both great teams, you would maybe go to the Bengals because of Joe Burrow, because I think Joe Burrow gives you that edge, quite frankly. But at the same time, if this is in a position where the players have the ability to talk to the other players, I think there is like an actual connection and family and culture in Detroit that is just elite and top level. The Bengals, I don't think they have that at all, quite frankly. I don't know what the Bengals have, honestly. I really don't. Think about even when the Bengals were losing and when they had, their defense was dropping the ball literally, and when they're missing field goals and stuff like that, like you could see them all pretty much say that out loud rather than just kind of just be like, we just weren't good enough. And the Detroit Lions, even when their defense was obviously injured and falling apart, it was still family. It was still kind of like, nah, man, we live and die together. Like, there was just a connection that felt impenetrable that I think is pretty exciting and pretty cool to be part of. If anyone has ever been part of a team like that, you legitimately do feel protected. I mean, you legitimately feel like you're at home. Like you feel that connection. I do not get that sense from the Cincinnati Bengals at all. So to me, that's another leg up that Detroit has, honestly. But that's just kind of nitpicking and trying to take this question potentially more literal than it need be. But it's kind of it's a forced question. It's a forced off-season question because we're comparing Joe Burrow to Jared Goff. Because why? Because I guess they both went to a Super Bowl and didn't win. So it's just kind of like, because it's like, who's more likely to get to the Super Bowl? Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow or, how about Matthew Stafford? Like, so it's a forced question, but to me, it's just the way how the Detroit Lions are run is just so much significantly higher quality. And that's what I'm also excited to see what the Detroit Lions do this season, because they're also going to kind of really show, can we continue to hire new coaches? Can we make the right decisions in terms of promoting different personnel, whatever it may be, that we weren't just a collection of coaches and players that were very unique and kind of just a good fortunate situation that, kind of the stars aligned and therefore we were going to be really good, pack a potent punch, win some games, but that was it. And they kind of have the ability now to prove like, no, like we're just a well-run franchise now. We're not dependent on this coach or this player or that player. We're a well-run franchise, and well-run franchises continue to be good into the foreseeable future, right? Just like the Philadelphia Eagles proved, we can win with a different coach. We can win with a different quarterback. We can fire coordinators and hire new coordinators, right? We can move on from this player and get that player. Like, you show that you can sustain greatness. That is what the Detroit Lions are, that is what their objective is now. From my viewpoint, the Cincinnati Bengals have already failed that. Now, just because you failed it for the first few years doesn't mean that you're going to continue to fail it, especially if you have a quarterback as great as Joe Burrow and you have players as great as Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, but they've failed at their ability to kind of make the right decisions that should have made this team. Like last season was inexcusable. There's just no excuse for it. When you have, especially the offense that you have, when you have Joe Burrow, it's a disgrace, quite frankly. I mean, it really, really is. The Lions have not failed that yet. Once they kind of wrote this ship and were, became competitive finally, they've continued to be competitive. They continue to be an aggressive top team. I understand the playoffs did not unfold as they wanted to this last season, but it just is what it is. They obviously dealt with injuries. They didn't have a great game. Happens. Philadelphia Eagles 2023 had some injuries, played bad, got rocked by the Buccaneers. Following year, won a Super Bowl. So, don't count out the Detroit Lions just yet. But, those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions or the Cincinnati Bengals or Joe Burrow or Jared Goff? How do you make sense of this conversation? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way. Let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.